Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is part 3 of, I don't know how many parts this is going to be. In any case, this is going to be part 3 of this series I started this week, in which I'm streaming, I'm live coding. So I'm streaming these live coding sessions, and the thing that I'm building is this utility for REAPER. It's a rescript. So if you have recorded video with multiple audio tracks, or even if you have a file that has multiple video tracks, you cannot edit this in REAPER directly because REAPER does not support multiple streams of data, multiple streams of media in a single file. You cannot switch between the different streams. And what I'm doing is this rescript, this action that will take the file and explode it into the different streams. So the point where we are at right now has to do, or one of the issues I found on the last session, and something that I want to start addressing now, is whether I should explode the same file multiple times if, and this is an edge case, but if you have selected multiple items like I have selected here. So by the way, this is an example of what we are talking about. You can also watch the previous streams, but if you want a quick summary, we have a file here that has one video track and 2 audio tracks. We created this file live on another stream, and here I have manually done the thing that I would like this action to do, which is to explode this MKV with 1 video track and 2 audio tracks into the video and audio track components, and I put them here on the tracks below. Okay, so coming back to the edge case that I was talking about. So if you have selected multiple media items here in REAPER, but they all point to the same file underneath, do I want to explode that file multiple times? My first intuition is not to do that because it's wasted work. You would end up with the same files, and not only it's wasted work, but it's also more space on your disk that is going to be occupied. So I think generally this is a bad idea. But I think that the correct behavior here is not to think about what I think is the right idea, but to mimic what the existing REAPER action does to explode the channels in audio sources, in audio tracks. So the thing to know about this hierarchy, in case you're new to this, is that there is like a file, and a file may have multiple streams, video, audio streams, and so forth. And then an audio stream may have multiple channels. So you may have an audio stream that is mono, or an audio stream that is stereo, and so forth. REAPER already has an action to explode the different channels in a track. What it does not have is to explode multiple streams from the same file, and that's the thing we are creating. So I think that most decisions should be copied. So what I'm doing here is I have a new item over here, and I'm going to do something I did in other occasions. So I'm going to look for the explode multi-channel audio or MIDI to new 1-channel item, and I'm going to copy whatever the behavior of this action is, if it makes sense. We'll see. So I'm going to zoom out and create 2 copies of this wave file. I'm going to select them both. And then I'm going to call the explode multi-channel audio action. Now let's see. It has created here 2 copies of the media items, and that's expected. But the question is, did it create these wave files multiple times? And to answer that, we'll have to jump into the directory with all the source files. Ooh, there is a lot of things in here. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start by cleaning up this directory, which of course will result in some lost items in REAPER, but that's fine because I can just come back to Reaper and take all the items that are offline, and then I have only the source material. So I have the track that I manually exploded, and I have here the original file that I have recorded in OBS. So now I'm going to do that same exercise, and I think it will be easier to see the output, to see whether this created the same items again. So explode, multi-channel items, okay. Yeah, so what this is doing is, it's not smart at all. If you select the same, if you select multiple media items that point at the same file, which is the case right here, because these two items point at 2021-05, 1831, so 1831. Oh, there are two of them, but not the one marked with 2. It's pointing, and not the one that's AAC. It's pointing at this file. So both media items in Reaper are pointing at this file. Here, I'll prove this. I'll delete this file real quick and come back to Reaper, and both of them will be offline. So they are both backed by the same file. And when I call explode, it will create these items repeatedly. So I can delete, for instance, this one, and only one of the things will be offline. The other one is an exact copy of the same source. That's the behavior we are going to copy. So I was thinking about maybe trying to save you from these extra files and save you from the conversion time, because converting this again and again will probably take more time. But I am not going to do this edge case. I'm not going to treat this edge case in any special way. I will do what Reaper is doing, which is probably easier to implement, but it seems wrong, but I guess it's better to have consistency. This is a theme of another episode. I said that it's better to have consistently looking code than good looking code. I think it's better to have consistency in this case, as opposed to what I would find more correct, I think. Okay, so let's go to the code base here, and this is not it. Okay, so don't convert the same source multiple times. Manage a many-to-many relationship between Reaper media items and source. Is this really necessary? What does the Reaper explode multi-channel action do? Well, we just learned that it does not treat that case specially, so we are not going to treat it either. In the previous episodes, we were writing code that was not thinking about this edge case. So we'll just continue. So next, what we have here, we have done this in the past episode, is we have now all the information we need from the files, because we need to inspect the files to know how many streams there are in the files. So we have done that, and we know the streams that compose the file. That's what this part is doing. It's inspecting the files. Also, we have built the command that will convert the files. And what we have right now, if we just save the action, this is going to run the action. And I can select a file and come back here and save. Okay, I had to click start, but in any case, the heart of the matter is I have already built the command to do the conversion. But before I am able to actually run this command, there is a wrinkle. The file names are not unique necessarily. I have not done any work to figure out if these file names already exist. And if the file already exists, we have learned in the past episode that FFmpeg will wait for you to answer the question of whether you want to overwrite or not. We probably could pass a command line flag here to FFmpeg that would say overwrite whatever you find there. But I find that too aggressive. So what I'm going to do instead is, again, follow what Reaper is doing, because I think I have to double check this, but from just the experiments we just ran, if I take this media item and I run the explode thing multiple times, I think what Reaper is going to do is create more and more files with slight different names. And that, I think, is a behavior that I like and that I definitely want to copy. So let's see, explode multi-channel audio. I have no multi-channel out. No, I do have some. So I'll delete all of them and I will run the action. So that creates 2 files. And then Reaper creates these repeats files so it can show you the waveforms. And then I will click on the original file again and I will run this again. So let's look at what it did with the tracks, because that is interesting. So it muted the original explosion and exploded again. But more importantly, more to the point, it created the different files with this counter extension, so 002. We will do, yeah, exactly that. I think that's a good strategy. So if you convert the same files again, we should append 002 or 003 and so forth to the file names. And I believe, I know for a fact actually, that Reaper has a function to test if a file exists. API exists, file exists. Okay. So this will return true if path points to a valid readable file. Well, I don't know about readable, because if a file is not readable, it would still say that the file exists. If the file is not readable, it would say that the file does not exist, and then I would try to overwrite it. But you know what? I'm not going to deal with this edge case. I don't really care about this. So I'll just look if the file exists. I will increment that counter and I'll try to create a unique name. Okay, so I have some questions here on the chat. Let's look at the chat. By the way, thanks for watching. It's awesome to have company. So IDDQD Sound asks, by multitrack media files, do you mean multi-channel audio plus video? Also, hi, big fan. Oh, hi. Thanks for watching. So, no, I do not mean multi-channel. The hierarchy is there is a media file. So by media file, I mean something like, I think I closed. Did I close the window? Okay, so by media file, I mean something like this MKV. So I can open this MKV in VLC recording here, and then I can show you what I mean. So I recorded this file live in a previous stream. So if you want to watch that, you can go ahead and do that. But in summary, a file is a container that has multiple video streams, and you can switch between different video streams here. But in this case, there is only one. And then audio is different audio tracks, usually different sources. In movies, it would be like the sound in the original language and then the sound translated to another language. Like the movie is American, then one soundtrack is the original in English, and then it's translated to Portuguese, for instance, and then there would be another track that is translated to Portuguese. Usually you don't want to hear these tracks at the same time. In this particular case, and the motivation for this series to begin with is when I'm recording in OBS, I record my microphone in one track and the sound from the computer itself in another track. And I want to explode those tracks when I'm editing in Reaper, so I can apply things like EQ and compression to my voice, but not to the sound of the computer. So now next question. Marco Tulio is thanking for the script that I wrote, the rescript that truncates silence in multiple tracks in Reaper. You are welcome. I'm glad you're finding it useful. Okay, so where are we? Creating unique names based on the Reaper file exists function. So what I'm going to do here is when I'm creating the file name, Where am I doing that? There is a lot of code here that I cannot read. I will go here to Visual Studio Code so I can format the code, because Visual Studio Code has this extension that formats the code, and then I can look at this, and it's not great looking, but at least it doesn't scroll to the right. So here I am creating a file name, and I need to check if the file exists. So I guess what I'm going to do is a loop. And I forget if Lua has the concept of do-while loops in Lua. I think it does have the concept repeat until. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Repeat until. Okay, so okay, so we're going to repeat. We are going to start with a local file name, local file, and we're going to repeat until it's not the case that Reaper file exists of file. And then in the loop, we are going to do this. But of course, it will be a little bit more complicated than that. And then there will be a file index or repeated file index. It will start with 0. No, it starts with 1. Because when I had 2 copies of the same file that was exploded by Reaper, it started with 1, though it did not show the 001, but it was there because conceptually when I did it again, it went to the number 2. So it does not start counting at 1, at 0. It starts counting at 1. Okay, another question here in the chat. What I do with my videos is record 2.1 audio, stereo, DAW out of 1 and 2, mic on 3, then Reaper, I just route them to different tracks and then destination. Okay. Oh, and person says, I didn't know you speak Portuguese. I was assumed Italian. Yeah, Facchinetti is an Italian last name, but I am Brazilian. And in Brazil, we do speak Portuguese. But now I live in Portugal. We happen to also speak Portuguese here. Okay, so yeah, there is this idea of just recording in multiple channels as opposed to recording in multiple tracks of audio. Because then you can do things like what IDDQD sound mentioned, which is to explode the channels using the action in Reaper that I just showed. But you can also do what this person was saying, which is to route the different channels differently. And Reaper allows you to have tracks with multiple channels, and it even allows you to route effects to different channels of a track. So if you have a track, okay, so if you have a track with, let's say, 4 channels, and let's say that you want to put some EQ, so maybe channels 1 and 2 are your microphone, and channels 3 and 4 are the sound from your computer. So you could apply some re-EQ, and then you can come here to the pins, and you can say, oh, I want to apply EQ only to my voice, or I want to EQ only the sound from my computer. And then you can even output this to different channels. And yeah, the routing in Reaper is super powerful. So you can do that. But there are reasons why I think it's valuable to have the action that we are writing together. First, because multi-track recording in OBS is a lot simpler than multi-channel recording. The routing in OBS is not as powerful. And I would argue that it's more correct to record in different tracks. Yeah, it's always possible to record in multiple channels, and some people mentioned that in the Reaper forum threads that people were discussing this idea of exploding media files like what I'm doing right now. And yeah, you can do multiple channels if you want. But if you want to do multiple tracks now, not now, but when we are done with this series, we'll be able to. And I think it's more correct to do it with multiple tracks. So there you go. And it's also going to preserve the number of channels in the different tracks. So suppose there is a more complicated scenario where one track is stereo and another track is quadraphonic. The explosion that we are doing will preserve the number of channels in the different tracks. Fotis and stuff says, thank you for doing this, Leandro. I need this action. All right, okay. You are welcome, and thanks for joining. And I think that we'll have the action done by the end of this week, though I am usually optimistic. So now let's come back here to the loop, and we will increment this number by the end of the loop. And here we will concatenate that number into the file name. I'll come back here to Visual Studio Code and I will format the code. So now let's look at the formatting that we want to do. So where do I want to put this? I want to put this after the closing square bracket. So we have something similar here. We want to do it right here. And at this point, I want to check, is the repeated file index equal to 1? If the repeated file index is equal to 1, then I will not add anything to the name because 1 is omitted. Reaper doesn't show 001 along with these files. Otherwise, I want to show the number, but just to make things exactly the same as the Reaper action, I am going to look for a way to pad the numbers so that they are always 3 digits. So now let's see. Lua left pad string. Padding. Yeah, I was hoping that maybe there was something in the standard library, but the standard library in Lua is not super powerful, so I'm not surprised. Let's see, pad. String format. Oh, I think I may be able to use that. Okay. So I'll show a trick that I used in a previous episode, and it is Lua is the language that is used for writing rescripts, but it's also the language that is used for configuring Hammerspoon, which is this other tool that has nothing to do with Reaper, but it happens to have a REPL, so I can just, it's an interactive console. I can just paste things here and try things out in Lua real quick. It's not the same version of Lua, it's not perfect, but it is good enough. So let's see, if I have a number like the number 2, it formats, but I can do things like this, and it will always left pad with the number 0. So even if I have something like 100, it will show 100, but if I have something like 90, it will show 090. So I suppose that the formatting that Reaper does internally, it's similar to that. So I believe that's the behavior. I'm not going to create 100 copies of the file to check this. And more importantly, our thing is even resilient to the case where you would have thousands of files, because this will not truncate or anything. So yeah, that's the format that we want. So now let's go back to where we were here. And so yeah, I don't want to use toString, and instead I want to use this thing, but I want the number to be this one, and I can take the toString out. So save that. And it seems like there is a problem. Let's start. Nope, there is no problem. I thought that this lower pane here was showing some error message. It seems like it's okay. So this is not including any numbers here, so that is correct. And what I can do, oh, in fact, the media item that is selected is not even the media item that I wanted to convert. It's this media item that I have over here. So I could explode this and the action would just explode this to generate another copy of this same file. Cool stuff. Because FFmpeg works with video, but it also works with any kind of media file. Okay. People saying, oh, well, yeah, that would be dope. With the quad example I finally got. Okay, good. So we are on the same page, all on the same page. So the MKV file is right here. I will delete all these tracks. They're confusing me. And I'm going to rerun this action. And at this point, I think I am generating unique names. So I can do some window management here, and I will delete a bunch of files over there. But with that, I think I'm actually able to run the command instead of just showing the command. So that's what I'm going to do. I have already here this part, which is executing the command to inspect. So I'm just going to copy this over and exec command, and this is the command that I want to run. And then I need to think about this number, because file conversions or video conversions in particular are going to be expensive. They're going to be slow. Oh, by the way, is there an REAPER API function for padding? No, yeah, I would think so. In any case, coming back. So this can take a while. Conversion of a file will take a while. So I need to think about the timeout for this execution. So executes the command line, returns null on that of failure. It would be probably a good idea to check if I got success out of this. Otherwise, the return value, a new line, if timeout msec is 0, the command will be allowed to run indefinitely. Which I think is the case. It should be the case, because if you have, you know what, thinking about it, what I'm doing here is I'm doing conversion of the audio files. The audio files are going to be converted from AAC to WAV. But the video files will not be converted, they will just be copied. So this is relatively fast. I could wait for like a minute. And if it timeouts after a minute, I could time out the command altogether. Because the thing to think about is that while a command is running, I think that REAPER will freeze. So if there is something wrong in the command that I created, I will freeze your REAPER instance if I let the timeout be 0. On the other hand, I can do something like a minute, and I think that should be generous enough for most use cases, and at least REAPER would come back to you in a minute. But I don't think you would wait a minute for REAPER to come back to you, would you? I mean, I have to make this timeout generous, because I don't know how long your files is. I guess I could ask FFmpeg to tell me how long the files are, and then I would have some estimate of how long the conversion would take, but that seems annoying. But in any case, I have to be generous, because I cannot time out in a normal scenario. So I would have to do things like minutes, and I don't think you would wait for minutes. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say 0. So the timeout is, there is no timeout. It will run until completion. And when I save this, just by the virtue of saving, this should have run, and it should have created the files, and it did. Excellent. Now let's run this again. And it should create more files with the new name. I forgot to put a space there. So let's go back and put a space there. Where is this? It's the string format. So I'll put a space in the format and save this. And then now I should have stream 002 with a space, because 002 without a space was taken, but not 002 with a space. And I can run this a bunch of times, and you cannot see because it's behind my face, but I'm clicking on the start button several times. And now I have a bunch of files, 002, 03, 04, and so on. And just to make sure, I will delete all these string files, and I will run this again to make sure that I'm not printing the space when I'm not printing the number. Excellent, this is exactly the thing that I wanted to do. And now the next step is to get these files that I just converted. They are in the directory, they are right there, I have just converted. I will need to put them in the timeline. You know what I'm gonna do first? I'm going to check the output of this command, because here on the other command, we are checking the result of the command because we are using that. We are using that information that that FFmpeg just returned, the inspection that FFmpeg just did. So we are using that information. Here I'm not using the information. I'm just calling FFmpeg so that it does the thing I want it to do. But I think it's a nice idea to check that the command runs successfully before I move on. So I will create a local convert command or convert command result is equal to that. So if convert command result is nil, or if convert command result does not match the pattern start of string and 0 and new line, like so, then I will error. And this is not something that I expect people to see, so I'm just going to use the error Lua built in that will just show a REAPER message, but I don't expect people to run into this anyway. So conversion failed. And then I'm going to put here the error. So toString, and this toString is super important because the thing may be nil. And yeah, this is something I learned the hard way because I did not have one of these in one of my rescripts, and people ran into a nil error, and then I would fail when trying to concatenate a string with nil, and then the error reporting failed. Oh, it was terrible. I mean, imagine what happens when you're trying to report error and you run into error during reporting. In any case, now let's save this. And oh, okay, that failed. Conversion failed 0. So conversion did not fail. Conversion succeeded. What I have is something wrong. I don't know. Is it this string match thing? Now what I'm gonna do is hang on. Okay, I'm back. Whereas a baby's crying, I have to wrap this up. So I'm showing the convert command result just to try to learn something about why this is not working. The console output. Where is the console output? Here it is. It starts with a 0, all right. So I wonder what's happening. Let's go back to Hammerspoon and check this string match real quick. So it should look like 0 and then a bunch of stuff, and then the Lua pattern for start of string 0 should match, and it does. I have no idea what's going on. Let's try to string this. And I would expect to see 0. Oh, yeah. So if I match 0, then it means that I succeeded. So it should say not that. And then when I save, it doesn't complain. All right. So let's double check what we have here. We have the convert command result, which runs the command parts. If the result is nil, or if it does not match start of string, which is the caret, the number 0, which represents success, and then a new line, then I will error. So I can save this and I can run this a bunch of times and it will convert and create more of these files, but it will not complain anything about anything. So another thing I can do just to force this into erroring is I can replace the command that I'm calling. So instead of calling ffmpeg, I'm going to call false. And when I run this, yeah, conversion failed with a -999. So that is our conversion failed thing right here, and it's showing the error message all right. So I can delete this. I can run this again. And I will do one final test. Run this, all the streams are there. Run this, all the streams are there. And I have checked that the conversion has succeeded. So at least I checked that I called ffmpeg and it didn't like complain. So what we have to do next is we need to get a hold of these file names that we are creating, because we are converting the files and we are creating all these other files with the different streams. We will need those names later in the process when we place the items in the timeline. So we will need to collect these file names that we are producing, and then we need to actually put the items in the timeline. But baby is crying. I have to leave. So for now, I'll leave it at that. We have the script in a state that can convert files, and that is like half the way there. The other half is putting the files in the timeline. And so we just need to collect the files, put the items in the timeline, associate the items with the correct files, and create the tracks for those. Yeah, I think that will be maybe as much work as what we just did, where we convert the files. But yeah, we learned some things about how to create unique file names, and we called the command from the command line and it worked. So that is good. I will answer the final questions and then I will leave. So IDQD, thanks for watching, says, sorry for all the questions. Would the reverse of what you're doing possible? Like quickly gluing together two videos that are overlaid on each other. With 3 or more videos, some video processor presets misbehave. A quick glue for video would be killer. I am not sure I understand what you're saying, but I think that the answer is yes, it would be possible. So let's think about different scenarios or different ways to interpret what you wrote. The first interpretation is you have different video streams and you would like to produce an MKV with the different streams where you would be able to like open the MKV in VLC and select the different video tracks. So I showed you here when I opened this file. I'm recording here. I was showing how you can select the different audio tracks, like for Portuguese, English, and so on. You can do the same with video tracks, which is not the case of this file, but we could take a bunch of video files and glue them together into one big file where you would select the different streams, like from here. That would be possible. And then the other interpretation is, could we... So that is the direct reverse of what we are doing. But you're saying quickly glue two videos that are overlaid on each other. So what I interpret by this other sentence is that you don't exactly want the reverse of what I was showing. Baby is going crazy. What you want is to do something like I have right here. I have a picture-in-picture situation, and they are different sources. One is my camera, and the other is my computer screen. And they're being overlaid on top of each other as a picture-in-picture. and you would like to burn that picture-in-picture into the files. And that is possible with FFmpeg. The same thing I would do with the previous scenario where you want to have multiple video streams in the same file. I would use FFmpeg for that. You just have to put all the streams in the same container. And that may be advantageous if you're transferring files because you have just one file to transfer instead of a zip or whatever. In any case, if you want to do that burning of the picture-in-picture, you could do that using FFmpeg. I'm sure I have never tried it. And there are ways for you to do that in Reaper as well. I have some videos on my channel in which I show my Reaper actions, not actions, but filters, video processors, that create a scenario exactly like this, because before I had the equipment to stream, I was recording all this on the camera and overlaying the video of the camera in the video using the video processors that I show in these other videos. So you can look in my channel, there are videos about how to do these overlays with masks to do the rounded corners and the picture-in-picture stuff. And I even have in my Reaper repository that I don't think the link is anywhere right now in this video, but you can easily find the Reaper repository in my other videos. There is also, I think it's a preset in there that exactly reproduces this scenario, but to change how the square with rounded corners looks and to change anything like the position or anything, you have to edit some code. So it's not like super ergonomic, but it's possible. Okay. With 3 or more videos, some video processor presets misbehave. Yeah, video processors are kind of a hack. They were an afterthought at best in Reaper, so they are not like super easy to use. As I said, you have to change some code sometimes to make some things happen. But yeah, it would be possible to burn the picture-in-picture using FFmpeg. I am not super interested in doing that myself because just thinking about the different ways you would want to do that. Maybe you want multiple picture-in-pictures, maybe you want the rounded corners, and that seems like the thing that a video editor would be best at. Maybe Reaper for video editing, but maybe some other video editor if you want to do really fancy transitions and whatnot. Reaper is somewhat limited in that aspect. At the same rate, it's possible to write code to do stuff with video in Reaper. So there are things like the auto mixer for video. There is another video in my channel showing the auto mixer for video. It switches between different camera angles based on who is speaking. So that's something that I don't think you can do with any other video editor. And then you can just quickly edit hours of interview in a multicam setup, and the computer is going to do the editing for you. All right. Someone says hello, hi, and someone says, oh, IDDQD Sounds has been loving this. I have your repo. I'll explain it maybe later to you exactly what I mean. Okay, so it seems like both of my interpretations were wrong, so we can talk later and figure out what exactly it is that you would like to do. But yeah, FFmpeg would be able to do the reverse of what I just did, which is to put all the video streams or audio streams in one file. And it's possible to also do picture-in-picture. But now it's time for me to go take care of baby and be with family. So thank you all for watching. I see you on the next one. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to get notifications about these streams. I'm not like scheduling. I'm not publishing these anywhere because I'm still experimenting with the format. But if you are like engaged, then subscribe to the channel, support me on Patreon, support me on PayPal. Keep watching this. Thanks for being with me. See you on the next one. Bye.